Hi, this is Silverpaw Reads, and today we're bringing you another chapter of Sontails Dreams Come True. Before we get started, just want to remind you to leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below, and share this video with your friends if you think they want to listen to some cool fanfiction. Anyways, let's get started with Chapter 17, Sontails' Origins. Amy smiled up at Sonic, admiring his tight and muscly physique, but Sonic simply looked down at his ruby-red shoes as he continued to walk. She tried other advances, thinking of ways to get him to open up with her more. She first began to walk closer to him, leaning levelly against his shoulder and wrapping her two arms around his left arm. She clawed tightly into his fur, holding on for what appeared to be dear life. "Amy, you're hurting me," Sonic winced, clenching his fist and biting down on his bottom lip to avoid from breaking out in angry rage from the pain. He walked more than anything to stick it to Amy and walk away from her, leaving her to choke on his dust, but his brain told him otherwise. He thought back to the last time he decided to give Amy a peace of mind. That only led to him seeing two of his old schoolmates to be burnt alive. Those heart-wrenching, glass-shattering screams still pierced through his consciousness, haunting his nightmares each and every night since. The only times he ever slept soundly was when he had his little buddy next to him, snuggling tightly up to his sapphire fur. "So, Sonic," Amy's ear-piercing voice broke through his daydream of sleeping in bed with Tails and brought him back down to the ground. He hummed. "You know how the Ladies' Choice Dance is coming up next week?" She began, but Sonic already began dreading the end of that sentence. The absolute last thing Sonic ever wanted to do was go to a dance with this succubus, but he knew that he didn't have much say in the matter. "Go to the Ladies' Choice Dance with me?" she finished, smiling a devilishly evil smile. Sonic shuddered slightly, feeling something rush up his spine and made him feel slightly dizzy as he stumbled, trying to keep his balance. "Whatever," Sonic mumbled into the ground. "I'm sorry, I didn't hear you properly," Amy sung to him, looking him in the eyes. "Ames, come on, don't make me—" "I said, will you join me at the dance?" she interrupted, repeating her question. "Yes, Amy Rose, I would love to go to the Ladies' Choice Dance with you." Sonic sighed. She cheered happily and pressed her lips to Sonic's cheek, brandishing him with a red mark from the lipstick she was wearing. "I'll go join Cream to go shop for the most beautiful dress. This will be great!" She jumped for joy as she detached herself from him and rushed off over the hill. As soon as she was out of sight, Sonic dialed up the number of his love, smiling when he heard Tails' melodic voice over the receiver. "Hello? Hey, Tails, I need to talk to you. Meet me in the usual place?" "Okay, love you," Tails replied. "Love you too." Sonic hung up the phone and raced off to the park, which they would always frequent from childhood up until the present. Tails pushed open the small black gate and entered the park. The sun stood low, half hidden by the faraway hills serving as the horizon, greedily stealing the sun's light for themselves. The devious shadows slowly crept over the land, approaching the small fox who tiptoed through the deserted park, keeping his head on a constant swivel. He made sure to do one final check of his surroundings before he fell down onto all fours and crawled through the prickly bushes. He breathed a sigh of relief when he finally pushed through the outer shrubbery and emerged into the small hiding place amongst the blueberry bushes. There, Sonic sat, waiting for his buddy. "Hey, Sonic, why'd you want to see me here?" Tails asked, but he was cut off by a pair of supple lips gently touching his. "I just needed to see you, Tails. I haven't been feeling myself lately," he sighed. "Same here. Ever since that strange music consumed us, I've felt different. I can't quite put my finger on it, but something inside of me seems to have changed. I feel more confident, more sure of myself. I'm not quite sure why. I tried to run some calculations, but so far I've come up empty-handed." Tails pondered, tapping his gloved hand to his chin as he thought back to his test that he tried to conduct. "That's my little genius," Sonic laughed, ruffling the hair atop Tails' head playfully. "If there's anything else bothering you, I know you'll be able to figure it out." Tails smiled up at him thankfully. "Enough about me, what's bothering you?" he queried. "It's just nothing, really. It's kinda stupid." Sonic coughed, trying to avoid the conversation. Slight embarrassment swept over him as he thought about how silly he sounded. After all, it was just one night. "Amy forced you to take her to the Ladies' Choice Dance, didn't she?" Tails sighed, his head on Sonic's shoulder, shifting his eyes upwards to gaze at Sonic. However, although Tails expected surprise from Sonic, he simply saw a smirk emerge on his face. "You always were too smart for your own good," Sonic chuckles. "Just like always, little buddy." "So why are you so sad?" Yeah, it's gonna be annoying that we have to avoid each other, but it's just one night. I already said yes to Cream, Tails added. What? Sonic's eyes went wide when he said this, nonchalantly as he did. How could you? Because I knew Amy would make you go with her, and if I said yes with Cream, then at least we could hang out a bit at the dance, and you wouldn't be so lonely. He smirked, showing an innocent, toothy grin. But still, how can I bear to spend even one night with her? He folded his arms stubbornly. I'm sure you'll survive, Tails laughed. No, you don't understand. Sonic let out an overplayed, exasperated sigh and fell backwards, sending a cloud of dust out from underneath him as he hit the ground. You know that guy always goes over to spend the night at the girls' place afterwards. It's like tradition or something. I don't think I could survive the night. Maybe I should teach you how, Tails giggled, rolling over to position himself above Sonic, his two legs on either side of Sonic, as his knees pinned down, pressing into his hips. Sonic raised his hands, placing them on the young kid's hips. And how would you do that? Sonic asked playfully. Like this. Tails winked, letting his legs slide down Sonic as his chest pressed against Sonic's nether regions, slowly moving upwards until their chests were pressed together and their faces barely inches apart. Tails lay on top of Sonic, whose hands were still on his boy's hips, as Tails leant down. The fox stopped bare meters away and rolled off the hedgehog, teasing the now salivating Hedgie. Why'd you leave? Sonic moaned playfully, putting on a fake frown and puppy dog eyes at the fox. You know I can never resist that look. Tails leaning in and pressed his lips against the hedgehog, allowing Sonic to suddenly gain dominance and mounting on top of Tails. He broke the kiss and sat upright, positioning himself comfortably on the young fox's lap as Tails placed his arms together behind his head. Something really has changed in you, Sonic mentioned. You seem a lot more confident, certain or comfortable with yourself, maybe? I'm not sure it's something I think I like. Not as much as you're gonna like the night after the Ladies' Choice dance, Tails smiled. Ugh, don't remind me. If you're on your best behavior, then I might give you a special treat if you manage to survive Amy. He winked seductively, taking the opportunity to push Sonic off him and climb back on top of the Cobalt Hedgehog. He laid down on top of Sonic and nuzzled his head into the slowly rising and falling chest. This little hiding place really is special, isn't it? Sonic sighed, putting his hand on the back of the boy's head and stroking it softly. That's how we first met, don't you remember? Tails sighed, recounting back to that fateful day in which the closest friendship in all Mobius began. Tails, honey, your father and I will be sitting over on that bench chatting with other parents. Just come find me whenever you want to leave. Tails' mother smiled, pinching his cheeks before walking off. This had been the first time in a long while that the 7-year-old fox trotted off into the park, slightly nervous to meet all the new kids. Tails walked up to a group of kids who were sitting in a circle, but much to his dismay, as soon as he walked up to them, they all fled off in a multitude of directions, eager to get as far away from the young fox as possible. The only child who remained behind was a short black and red hedgehog, who lay with his eyes closed, completely unaware of the kid's presence. Hi, my name is Tails, he squeaked. What do you want? The hedgehog sighed, clearly annoyed as he slowly opened one eye. When he saw the new kid and not one of those who were in the circle originally, he sat up, a smirk crossing his face. Why did everyone leave? Tails asked, shaking nervously. Isn't it obvious, pipsqueak? He spoke with a sinister intent. Tails shook his head, not taking his eyes off the Hedgie. It's 'cause you're a freak, he spat. What? Just look at you, two Tails. Who would ever want to be seen with a freak like you? He laughed evilly, relishing in the discomfort of the young fox. I'm surprised that they didn't all flee sooner. Get out of here, kid. Just being around you makes me want to vomit. Shadow smiled, walking off in search of the other kids who were hiding around the park as Tails rushed off crying. Tails really wanted to run back into the comforting arms of his mother, but he knew the other kids' parents were with her, and if they saw him crying like this, then they would hate him even more than they already did. He searched around in a frantic panic, wishing he was invisible. That was when, out of the corner of his peripheral vision, he spotted a clump of blueberry bushes in the far corner of the park, surrounded by prickly plants. Tails knew that he wouldn't be hurt that much because of his tough fur, and hoped that nobody would want to follow him through. He quickly rushed over to the bush and dived inside, crawling on all fours, further and deeper into the bushes until he was completely submerged on all sides by the luscious green foliage, which blocked out not only the sun's rays, but also the taunting stares of the other children. That was when Tails discovered the small cavernous area that opened up to the back of the park, big enough for 2 people to comfortably sit inside. This seemed like a welcome paradise from the hell that was outside, and he didn't want to share it with anybody. Unfortunately for him, or fortunately, Chaos had other plans. Just as Tails was drying his eyes, trying to gather his composure, he heard the rustling of leaves and some heavy panting. Just at that moment, a bright cobalt blue hedgehog pounded through the bushes, doing a small somersault to get out of view of the others quicker, and ended up colliding with the small crying Kit. Ouch, Tails whined. Hey, sorry pal, I didn't really look where I was going. The Hedgie laughed, showing a toothy grin. Hey, my name's Sonic, what's your name? He asked, holding out his hand, still donning the silly grin over his face. Why do you care? You'll just make fun of me like the rest of them, he muttered, beginning to crawl out of the spacious hiding place. Whoa, what are you talking about? Hey, are you crying? Please, just leave, Tails begged. Hey, come on, don't be sad. Was there any reason to be sad about? 'Cause everyone just runs away from me when they see me and my freakish tails, he sulked. Sonic looked down at the boy's pair of twin tails. What's wrong with them? I think they're pretty cool. Actually, since you won't tell me your name, then I'll just call you Tails. Sound good? He chuckled happily. What's wrong with you? Why aren't you running in fear like the others? Who would run in fear from you? You seem like a great kid. The black hedgehog told me that everyone hated me because I'm a freak, he said, more tears beginning to emerge from his tear ducts. Of course he did, Sonic sighed. Look, that's just Shadow. He might act like he's all tough, but he's actually a nice guy deep down. You just have to get to know him. He likes messing with people, trust me. He smiled the biggest, most genuine smile he could, putting his arms around the fox's shoulder. Why are you being so nice to me? Well, that's what friends are for. We're friends, aren't we? He smiled. Tails quickly nodded, not wanting to say anything. He never really had a friend before and didn't want to blow it by saying anything nerdy or stupid. Well, good. So, what's your name? Miles, but I think I like the name Tails better, he confirmed with a small nod of his head. Okay then, Tails, nice to meet ya. So, you want to come over and play with us? Oh, but they'll all just run away and hide again. Well, I'd hope so. We're all playing hide and seek after all. Tails' eyes widened as the realization washed over him. You didn't think they were hiding from you just because you had two tails, did you? You're funny, Tails. I just know we're going to be the best of friends. Sonic laughed again, holding out his hand for Tails to grab. Tails mulled over what he was saying, surprised by how friendly and kind the stranger was being to him. He smiled back, revealing in the wonderful feeling of meeting this new person who seemed to genuinely want to be Tails' friend. He placed his hand in Sonic's and quickly felt a jolt as the hedgehog began to pull him along behind, crawling out of his hiding place. Hey guys, I want you all to meet Tails, Sonic yelled out, calling all his friends out of their hiding places. Firstly, a young violet feline crawled out from underneath the playground and waltzed over to him, extending her hand out. Hi, name's Blaze, it's a pleasure to meet ya. You too. He shied away from her slightly, bumping into Sonic behind him, or smiled down at him. Hey Ames, come over here, I want you to meet my new friend, Sonic called out as a pink Hedgie rushed over to the two. Amy ran into the fox and threw her arms around him in a big hug. Nice to meet ya. Any friend of Sonic is good in my book. She smiled up at Sonic, blushing when she saw him giving her an approving thumbs up. Shadow, watching this display from afar, just shrugged his shoulders and sighed to himself. So much for having a bit of fun. That hedgehog ruins everything. I remember that day so vividly, Tails laughed, lying closely to Sonic, hugging him tightly. That was a good day, wasn't it? Hey, Tails, I have something to give you. He reached into his bandana and pulled out a small silver necklace which had a heart at the bottom of it. He reached around Tails' neck and clipped it around the back. Tails put his hand around the heart and held it up to his face. He slowly moved his thumb over the locket, brushing off the dust. He turned it over to see a small engraving that said, Tails and Sonic forever. Tails smiled back towards Sonic and flung his arms around the hedgehog, thanking him over and over again when their hug was suddenly broken by the sound of a familiar Hedgie. Sonic, Tails, I know you guys are in that stupid little hangout. Get out now! Shadow screamed, which was unusual for him. Tails quickly unclipped the necklace and clasped his fingers around it, shielding it from the outside world as the two began to crawl out of the hiding place. What do you want? Sonic barked as he emerged from the bushes and stood up, brushing off the thorns that pricked his fur. Don't you think it's pretty lame to be hiding together in a small bush? He laughed. It's our place to talk. You're just jealous that you don't have a best friend since nobody finds you appealing, Shads. He laughed, winking at the now frustrated hedgehog. Shadow smiled when he noticed something in the fox's left hand and walked up to Tails, grabbing his wrist. What's in the hand, nerd? He barked, holding Tails' wrists tightly as he tried desperately to shake off the tight grasp of Shadow. Hey, let go! He cried, trying his hardest without any success to break free of his grip. Hey, that's enough, let him go! Sonic ordered, half from anger and protectiveness of his friend, and half of fear from Shadow seeing the necklace. Come on, just let me see, Shadow laughed, beginning to pry open his fingers one by one with his other hand. Fear gripped Sonic as he watched the necklace slowly become more and more visible. One finger more, and Shadow would see that it has a heart and their secret would be out. Sonic didn't have time to think and his instincts took over. He ran up to Shadow, crashing into him with all of his strength and caused Shadow to stumble backwards, letting go of the fox as he lost his balance. He tripped over his legs and began tripping backwards until he bumped into a small playground contraption and fell backwards. His back fell over the metallic object, landing on the tan bark that littered the ground, and his legs bent around it, caught in a metallic spring underneath, and he bending at a horrible angle. Ow! Shadow screamed in pain as the three hear a loud piercing crack echo through the air as his femur broke off. Tears began streaming out of the black hedgehog's eyes as he began swearing every profanity he can think of. Wait here, I'll go get some help. Come on, Tails, Sonic cried, grabbing the fox, sprinting off the distance. You'll pay for this, faker. Sonic could hear the angry, hate-filled words of the hedgehog echo through the air, seemingly crashing him down as the pair ran off to get help. Anyways, that's the end of Chapter 17. We'll see you next time for Chapter 18. Have a good one.